Hello, folks. Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. My name is Dustin Jones, one of the lead faculty within the Older Adult Division. Today, we're talking about 6 keys for cognitive fitness. This topic is a big topic and the most popular one in terms of what older adults are searching. So, when you look at the Google search trends of most search kind of health related topics or issues, Alzheimer's disease, memory loss is typically right at the top. And I want to speak to some messages of hope that we can give our patients, the clients that we work with, and then also a resource that you all can use to speak to your communities and share that message of hope. Stronger Life, the gym for folks over 55, where I work here in Lexington, Kentucky, we recently did a workshop that covered these 6 keys for cognitive fitness and brain health. And it really resonated with folks. I wanted to share this with you all so you can share this with your community, but also I think it's super pertinent for us, right? As old people in training, as we are pursuing that fitness forward lifestyle, that we also need to be very considerate of the mental side of things as well. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is related to this concept of cognitive fitness or cognitive reserve. And this is going to sound very, very familiar when you think about many of the ICE courses that will speak to building physical capacity. And the more capacity we have, the more resilient we're going to be to different life stressors, whether it's some type of mechanical stressor related to some type of musculoskeletal injury or exposure to some type of virus. We may be a little bit more resilient to those situations as we build our capacity. If you've taken any of the older adult courses, you heard us talk about that concept of 1 rep max living, that folks that have limited capacity, they don't have a lot of reserve or wiggle room. If they have some type of stressor, some type of injury, some type of sickness, it will kick them underneath kind of this quote unquote red line to where they're going to have to, probably need assistance for different ADLs and IADLs. Life is just going to be a lot harder. And the more we can build their capacity, the less relative work they're going to need to use to do the things that they need to do. And so we talk about this a lot from the physical side of things, but what's really interesting is that these same principles apply to cognition as well. And so the Harvard Medical School put out a recent publication. It's a consumer-facing ebook that you can purchase that's titled Building Cognitive Fitness. And so there's 6 main characteristics that the research is really pointing to that we can build cognitive fitness and cognitive reserve that we can show our patients, we can also do ourselves. So let's go through these. So the first one is the clearest one, the one that probably has the most evidence to support, and that is exercise. No surprise here, right? We're talking to the ICE crowd. I'm preaching to the choir here that exercise is important for so many things, but it's also important for cognitive capacity, building that capacity so we have more cognitive reserve. Some of the important characteristics about exercise related to cognition is it's not very clear of like what type of exercise is going to benefit your cognition the most. You're going to see studies that are going to really show a positive impact related to high intensity interval training, for example, or high intensity resistance training. But then you'll also see a positive influence in cognition when you're doing kind of lower intensity activities. Or even, aerobic based, training like walking programs, for example. The big theme that we are seeing in exercise related to cognitive fitness is quantity. Is that if we're meeting those recommended physical activity guidelines of 75 minutes a week of vigorous activity or 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity activity, those folks will do much, much better. So not necessarily concerned about what people are doing, but how much. If folks are meeting those physical activity guidelines, they're going to be around a 33% reduced risk of having some type of memory decline, significant memory decline as they age, compared to non-active or sedentary individuals. So there's a lot of evidence that's pointing to just getting people moving. So that's kind of the overarching theme for exercise. Next is going to be nutrition. This is a mixed bag, right? We have lots of nutritional advice going around. Paleo this, low carb, high protein, all kinds of recommendations. By and large, the nutrition recommendations are whole plant-based diets. And when we say plant-based diets, we're not saying, not eating meats or relatively low protein. It's just that we're really emphasizing vegetables, fruits, kind of whole natural foods. Some of the common diets that you are going to see getting pushed with, the Mediterranean diet, for example, the DASH diet that is commonly recommended for folks that have different cardiovascular issues, that by and large are promoting a lot of fruits and vegetables. They are promoting, adequate amounts of protein and meats as well. So nothing too crazy here, but really emphasizing those whole foods, plants, and vegetables. The evidence is really pointing to that. Next is going to be sleep. Now, this is a really interesting one because a lot of the messages, we need more sleep, right? We need to get more sleep, adequate sleep, better sleep in terms of quality. What the research related to cognitive fitness is pointing to is that 6 to 8 hour window of that amount of sleep is really beneficial for folks. And those that regularly achieve that amount of sleep do show improved cognitive capacity compared to folks that do not. But what's interesting is the further you get away from that 6 to 8 range, whether below or above, we start to see a negative impact on cognitive function. And this is what I see more often with the folks that I work with. Many of them are in their 70s, 80s, maybe newly retired. They kind of get into this rhythm where they don't have as many obligations that they have to go to earlier in the morning, for example. And their sleep schedule really starts to alter, typically gets pushed back so they go to bed later, but then they sleep for a longer period of time. And that is not necessarily a good thing. So too much sleep could be a harmful thing in terms of cognitive fitness. So that 6 to 8 hour range is what this publication was recommending. And then the last three, I think, are some of the more interesting ones because the first three we all know, right? Exercise, nutrition, sleep. It's good for so many things. But the last three really caught my attention. The next one is stress. And typically when we hear about stress, we hear about, we need to reduce it, right? We need to have stress reduction techniques and ultimately trying to lower the stressors that we experience in our lives. And what this publication is speaking to and just a lot of the research that they were summarizing is the reduction of stress isn't necessarily what we're after. It's our response to the stress. The stress really needs a reframe as opposed to a reduction. Because if we're able to reframe our perception of stressors, of problems, of issues that we come across in our lives, if our perception changes, ultimately our response to those stressors is going to change as well. And that can have physical, tangible benefits and differences, right? If I perceive a problem or a situation in a very kind of elevated manner, I'm going to have, a chemical reaction to that. It's going to be a stressful reaction versus if I have a different perception where I may maintain calmness, I may be able to see kind of the bigger scope of this issue and kind of put it in perspective. I'm not going to have as much of a stress response, which is going to be a good thing. And so stress, yes, we want to use it for our benefit. We don't necessarily want to reduce it. We want to reframe how we think about it. And that's going to result in a different impact that stress is going to have in our lives. So that was number 4. So we got exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress. Number 5 is community. Lonely individuals, self-reported lonely individuals are 40% more likely to develop a diagnosis of dementia. Friends can save lives. We know this from the physical side in terms of tracking physical outcomes, but also from the cognitive fitness side. And so the engagement in the community is absolutely huge. And I think we do a really good job of this within our profession to build kind of physical capacity, skills, ability to be able to have the physical prerequisites to navigate our communities and be involved in different things out in amongst our people, right? But I think we have a lot of opportunity to take it a step further of how we can maybe connect some of our patients and clients with community-based activities. It could be a gym, it could be a walk club, it could be some type of social gathering where they are interacting with others and developing some meaningful relationships. It gets harder and harder and harder to develop those relationships as we age. Many of you all are experiencing this right now, right? Think of some of the folks that are new grads, for example. Think of the bonds that you had going through PT school when you were struggling with these folks, you're studying with them, you're spending hours upon hours with these individuals. Then you get out, right? You get out into the quote unquote real world. You get a job, things start happening, people start to have families, people move away. Life starts to happen. It can become more and more challenging to develop those bonds and maintain them. And as we progress through life, that just gets increasingly more challenging. And so we want to think about how can we create opportunities for folks. That's a big emphasis for us at Stronger Life. We are a gym offering group-based fitness classes, but that is just a part of it. The other part is our walk club, our supper club, of monthly workshops, of outings that we will take, of taking people to the Dominican Republic for an adventure retreat. These different opportunities can help build some of those strong bonds. They're going to have physical and cognitive benefits for these individuals. So we have exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress, community. And the last one, and my favorite one, is novelty. Novelty of exposing your brain and your body to new situations, scenarios, skills, anything that is new and novel. The folks that demonstrate some of the highest cognitive fitness and ultimately cognitive reserve later on in their lives, they typically had that trait. What that's usually expressed by is the concept of lifelong learning. These folks continually learned new skills, new hobbies. They're very curious individuals. They tried the new restaurant. They tried the new dance class, for example. They were doing new and novel activities on a regular basis, and that kept their brain engaged and ultimately grew, their cognitive capacity, which is ultimately going to improve their fitness and their cognitive reserve. What that looks like tangibly that I see and witness on a daily basis at Stronger Life is folks that are willing to try newer hobbies or new classes that are available in the community. We are in a college town. University of Kentucky is here, and there's a lifelong learning institute associated with the university. We have a lot of members that will take semester classes and learn a new skill, for example. Those types of things are really great for so many things, from the relational side, community side, keeps them engaged physically in the community, but also cognitively as well. So pursuing novelty. All right, routine can be the enemy here related to cognitive fitness. So these are 6 things that when I look at these are things that I want to emulate, right? You're probably thinking the same thing. How can I exercise more? How could I eat a little bit cleaner? How could I get higher quality sleep? Not too little, not too much. How could I think about the stressors in my life and how I respond to those? Because that can influence my cognitive capacity. How can I develop meaningful community where I don't, quote unquote, feel lonely, but I have meaningful connections with people around me? And then how can I pursue new and novel pursuits, skills, hobbies, whatever that may be? If you do that over decades upon decades upon decades, you're doing yourself a huge favor in so many different domains. Now, if you find this message hopeful, your patients will too. And they're very concerned about this topic of cognition, of losing their memory, of getting a diagnosis of Alzheimer's dementia. You have the ability to share some very, very empowering and actionable advice to these individuals. And you can do that through a form of a workshop. And I want you all to check this out because these are great tools to get people into your clinic or to you to go to a community to get yourself in front of these folks so you can show them what you have to offer them, what your business has to offer them, what your clinic, wherever you are, you can serve folks and spread a hopeful message. And so what we did is we took the slide deck that we use at Stronger Life for this brain health workshop, and we made an unbranded slide deck. So you can take this slide deck, put your own logo, colors, fonts, all that stuff on there, and you can take that and present it out to your community, your clinic, wherever that is. And then we also record it so you can see what it looks like to actually do this thing in front of a group of over 50 people that were furiously taking notes because they're very, very interested in this topic. We typically don't think cognition or cognitive fitness is in our realm. That's for the OTs, right? Or that's for the speech language pathologists, or maybe someone more in the medical realm, but that is not the case. We have a lot to offer and a lot to influence, whether you're OT, whether you're speech, whether you're PT, whether you're a fitness professional. We are providing interventions that are influencing people's cognitive fitness, whether you know it or not. All right. So share. I want you to check out that workshop. You can just comment. If you're on Instagram, just comment on this post. If you're on YouTube, you can comment as well, or you could just send me a message and I'll give you that link. We're also going to be sending it out on the HDH email and the MOA Digest email as well. All right. I appreciate y'all spending some time with me on this lovely Wednesday. Before we go, just want to mention a few of our MMOA or Modern Management of the Older Adult courses that are coming up. Next level one cohort is going to be January 8th. This is going to be a completely revamped course we're going through, looking at the latest updated research related to some of the foundational principles that we speak to so you can be better at serving older adults. That's going to be a completely new course on January 8th. Level 2 is going to start on January 9th, and our upcoming live courses, we're going to be in Cincinnati December 7th. And then January 18th, 19th, we're going to be in Hendersonville, Tennessee at Stave Off and onward. All right, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Hit me up if you want that brain health workshop resource, and then I'll talk to you soon.